Good morning, everybody. My name's Rachel Neylin, as Tony said. I'm the online manager, which means websites and intranet, but I'm also the information access officer for Waterford County Council. I'm going to talk on how we made our services accessible, covering the NDA's Excellence Through Accessibility Award, about gaining staff support, telling the public what we've done, asking for feedback from them, and what our legal requirements are. I've put up there the truth behind the awards, because if any of you have gone for any of these, you'll know what I mean. The photo shows the usual suspects. From left to right, there's David Campion, our physical access officer. We had a very supportive mayor in Joe Barron. There's the prize itself there, tenderly held in the middle. Myself as information access officer. Frank Curran, who's our director of service. And it was he who had the bright idea in 2009 by saying, let's go for the Excellence Through Accessibility Award given by the NDA. We felt we'd already made good progress in providing better accessibility for people in County Waterford. And whilst we knew an award would be a challenge, we felt confident we'd be able to do it. Well, achieving the award was far more intensive, detailed, difficult than any of us had thought it would be. And yet I don't regard any of those adjectives as necessarily negative. This shows the recommendations needed to bring the website up to date, up to the quality required rather. We had 46 pages of recommendations, and the first bit said, this is not a complete list of all the accessibility issues on your websites. So at that moment I sort of clutched my head and thought, oh my God, what have I done? We also had 23 pages of recommendations of physical and corporate improvements to the civic offices themselves. These are our offices in Dungarvan. And it was a huge amount of work and felt overwhelming to start off with. But then we started working through the NDA recommendations, and one by one, the 46 pages and the 23 pages were reduced. We're a small authority with no full-time access officer, but whether you're large or small, every action you take to improve accessibility will have an exponential effect on your staff and on the people who use your services. So every one of these small steps counts. This is a quote from one of the members of staff who helped us with achieving the award. And he says that it was as much a learning process as it was an assessment, and the assessors were very practical and their guidance was invaluable. So following their guidance, it meant intensive work with some of our staff and straightforward awareness with others. For example, in the planning area where people can view applications and files, if people have sight or mobility issues, they may not be able to use it easily. So we talked to planning staff in detail about how they should deal with that situation effectively, ensuring that the person inquiring had a good, positive result. With other staff, it was more an informal explanation to explain, for example, why our lovely internal glass stairwell had big green strips put on it. Basically, it's because it's glass and very reflective, we need to prompt people as to where each flight of stairs starts and stops. Fairly important, really, for everyone, but especially people with limited vision. And talking to our staff about these issues was essential to promote a positive attitude in providing accessible public services. You can have all the automatic doors in the world, but if the person on this side of it has an attitude problem, you may as well not bother. Going for the award meant we had to have that communication in a rigorous and measurable way. For example, collating the evidence to put before the assessors. So after all the hard work and brilliant support from the NDA, we were very proud to receive the Silver Award in 2010. And we're still making improvements. And again, I don't regard that negatively either. In fact, it's precisely the correct outcome. You don't achieve the award and then stop. You carry on. But I hear you all saying out there, local authorities and public services, we have no spare budget. And I can understand people feeling it's just too large a task to attempt. So we need to turn to the old saying about how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. For local authorities and access, it's one step at a time. And we needed those pages of recommendations to drive our initial impetus, and I hope the award returns for other local authorities to use, because it was absolutely invaluable to us. So following that sort of roadmap feeling, This is a few examples, I suppose, of what we did. You have the roadmap, you gain staff support, you inform the public, you get feedback, and then that in turn provides the next stage of the roadmap. And I'll just run quickly through some of the roadmap improvements that we've done in the civic offices, and we've also done other things across the county, and I'm sure that with an audience like this, you're more than familiar with some of the things that we've done. Accessible parking bays right in the front of the building and in the adjacent car park. A dedicated customer service desk with low and high counters and induction loops, so it provides a one-stop shop for people to make their inquiries. They're not being sent all over the building, they're dealt with there. An accessible bathroom on the ground floor. We validated our websites through W3C guidelines and, again, the fantastic support from the NDA. We rewrote online and print content that used a lot of jargon. We installed automatic doors in the civic offices, a boon for everyone. When I had small kids, I would have loved them, going in with a buggy and another one. Lift buttons are at an accessible height with colour contrast to be easily seen. As regards staff support ideas, we regularly remind staff about how to deal with requests for information in other formats so that they are confident and the inquiry is comfortable. We don't get that many requests, but it keeps accessibility in the staff mind at all times. We made a video training clip to show staff how to add content or images to the website to ensure it complies with W3C guidelines. And again, we deliberately used video for impact so that the staff would remember that this was an important issue. During the assessment process, we needed to talk to staff and explain what we were trying to do. And a great way to get their attention was to ask about what did they think their family and friends would gain from some of these accessibility improvements we were making. No matter how minor, how would they feel about it? And staff are now using the NDA e-learning module for public service staff. I've gone through that myself, as have several others in our organisation, and it is great. I'd recommend everybody to use it. How did we tell the public? Well, we used National Accessibility Week, always at the beginning of December, to highlight improvements that have been made. And that's a national date that the Access Officers Network deals with and works towards. We send out press releases, radio adverts, Twitter hashtags. We do quite a lot of Twitter and Facebook posts. Anything that's free. So I'm not paying for the press releases. I'm writing to our local paper and saying, look, this is a great story. Why don't you use it? When we have school visits, get them to spot those accessibility improvements around the offices, explain how they are useful, and get them to reflect again on their family, people they know. What would Nana and Grandad think of this? Would they find it easy to come in and out of the building? And we use social media to publicise events by local voluntary and community groups who are involved in accessibility. We tweet and Facebook and push things on their behalf. And we always ask for feedback through local press, radio and social media, though I don't know what anyone else feels, but we get not enough feedback, I feel. I think it's one of the areas we really need to attack. So, still to do. There's a lot, I think, that we still have to do. We need to use persuasion with budget holders, so we need to have that discourse, that discussion about accessibility issues. But we also do have a legal obligation to provide accessible services, and Brian sort of led us through the historical aspects of that. And on the screen there we have the Equal Status Act, the Disability Act, the new Part M, the National Disability Strategy Implementation Group. This will become, I think, more important because it'll be looking at the sectoral plans that we have, and it'll be sort of making sure that government hear about those and that we all hear about those. For me, it's things like more plain English and Irish. I think there's still a big issue about that. Too much jargon. We need easy readers for people with any sort of impairment. The Access Officers Network is talking to the department about that, and a project team of online managers' websites are looking at creating easy-to-use content for our LA websites. We need more video clips, good for people with learning impairments, but also for those whose first language isn't English. Make sure new initiatives such as Smarter Travel embed universal design right from the start, reduce the amount of retrofitting. There's a transition year e-learning project which is using the same e-learning or similar e-learning project which will encourage younger people to think about universal design. And we need to manage opposing needs. So, for instance, we have a barrier blocking off access to a beach to stop illegal camping. But what about people who want to use that in accessible transport vans? Why should they be blocked off from using it as well? The last word should go to a member of the public who was kind enough to contact me about the civic offices after they'd been in to visit. And she said that she liked the easy slope of the ramp, the low counters, rails on doors and in the lifts, the careful use of space, so there's plenty of room for a wheelchair to reverse out of a lift and turn easily. The external automatic doors were very useful. And finally, she said the disability access was excellent compared to a lot of places in Dungarvan. So that's our next challenge, to help the rest of Dungarvan improve as well. Thank you.
As Tony said, my name is Jacinta Hunston and I'm one of the access officers for revenue. I'd like to say it's not my main job, it's added on to my job. I'm actually one of the customer services managers for revenue and I'm based in the Dublin region. I deal with customer services issues on a daily basis, and sometimes I do get a number of queries from people with disabilities. I also deal with complaints, not just from people with disabilities, but from all taxpayers, or customers as we should call them. I always say that when we think of the number of customers that we deal with on a daily basis that call to any of our offices located throughout the country or make contact with us by the telephone or use our online services, the complaints that we get are few and far between. Now, last January we did get an increased number of complaints when we had that pension issue for customers that were in receipt of pensions from the Department of Social Protection. The Revenue Commissioners are committed to the principle of treating all our customers equally. Our customer service standards state that we will ensure that our offices and services are accessible to all people, and that includes people with special needs. Back in 2007, you may or may not be aware that revenue were awarded the quality level from the NDA for the excellence, the National Disability Authority Excellence Through Accessibility Award. We were awarded the quality level for 3 of our Dublin offices. The Dublin offices were the Central Revenue Information Office, which is the office that most people are familiar with. It's the one that's located on Cathedral Street, just off O'Connell Street. There was our office, another public office that we have in Tala, and the other building was down at Dublin Port. Our colleagues in Cork went one better than us in 2008 when they were got the award at the excellence level, which was the gold medal. When our buildings in Dublin were nominated for the award, a revenue-wide access team was set up. There was about 20 people from all different sections in revenue. There was people from the nominated buildings, the Central Revenue Information Office, the Tala office, and the Custom House down in Dublin Port. We also had on the group people from our IT area, people from our accommodation branch that looks after our buildings, and we also had people from our planning department that looks after our forms and leaflets. As you know, when you're making a claim for your tax credit or you have to pay stamp duty, well, a lot of our services are now online. There are forms that still have to be completed. So this team was looking at what we needed to do to make our services accessible. In our public offices, we arranged for a mixture of public counters, so that if a wheelchair user came into any of our offices, that they could conduct their business the way any other customer could, that there was a particular desk there at their level. Also, we had to look at our signage, and the signage was then put at eye level. The fonts were clear, the lettering was tactile, and we also had our signs in braille and made sure that the colour contrast for all people with disabilities, that they would be able to read these signs. The lifts in some of our buildings, as well as the numbers in the lifts being tactile, they are audio, so that, again, people are hard of hearing or are visually impaired, that both will know how to get to the next floor. In our public office in the Central Revenue Information Office in Cathedral Street, we would have a number of PCs where people come in, and while they're waiting to be attended to, that they may want to check something online. So we actually have two particular computers. One has a trackball and a keyboard with large keys and colour contrast, and another computer has headphones and can read out the information on the screen to the customer. In approximately 7 offices throughout the country, induction loops are available. This was another issue that we looked at. Induction loops are available for customers with hearing aids, and large signs are in these areas advising customers that this is available. We also provide customer care kits for customers who may have arthritis in their hand and find it difficult to write with a particular pen, that we can supply certain pens for them to fill in their forms. In our office in Cork, the toilets are accessible to all customers. The toilets are spacious and have grab rails with good colour contrast. There is a cord there to pull if there's an emergency. There's braille and there's good images also. I mentioned earlier that when the Access team was set up, that we had people from our planning division. Our planning division would look after our forms and leaflets. And we looked at the most popular forms that we should provide on demand in alternative format. A couple of them are available in braille and large print. That's the Revenue Customer Service Charter, Revenue Customer Service Standards, that's in braille. And then we have a number of leaflets for everybody, advising them if they want to claim a particular tax credit, be it health expenses, be it blind allowance. We also explain what the tax credits are for single people, for married couples, how much tax they pay at 20% and at the higher rate. So the IT1 form, that particular form, as I mentioned, is available on demand in braille and in large print. The leaflet, the IT6 it's called, this is a leaflet that tells you what health expenses that you can claim and how you go about doing it. That is also available on demand. The IT35, which is the blind person's tax credits and reliefs, that also is available on demand. Any forms that anybody wishes to have in braille or in large print, they can contact myself or one or other of the 2 other access officers in revenue, and we will provide it for them. It may take a bit longer than when you get your tax credit certificate in the post a couple of days after you make contact with us. But people have requested either to have it in braille or to have it in audio. So as access officer, I would contact our planning division and arrange for the alternative format to issue to the customer. Our website, again in 2007, our website received an award as well. And in 2008, or 2008, our website was relaunched. So from the ground up, we had accessibility in mind when it was being relaunched. Our PAYE Anytime service is accessible to persons with disability. People may or may not be aware of our PAYE Anytime service. This is where you can go online and conduct, if you want to claim a review, for example, of your health expenses for the previous 4 years, you can do it online, and people with disabilities can avail of the service as well. Just to mention that if anybody is going to conduct their business online and claim their health expenses, just to retain your health expenses receipts for a number of years. Sorry, I'm just seeing I'm running out of time here. You have to keep them for 6 years because we can go back and we can ask you for the receipts when we're doing our compliance and auditing programme. This is just a slide off our website which shows the accessibility statement. That again, you can put whatever print, you can increase the font. Disability equality training. Our training branch in 2006, around the time that we nominated the buildings for the awards, they set up a training programme. They delivered a training programme to approximately 800 customer service staff. This is to give the staff the awareness of the building environment, how they deal with taxpayers who have disabilities, the do's and the don'ts. On our internal website, there is actually a leaflet meeting the customer with disabilities, and this was set up in 2010. It includes a podcast interview with a person who uses a guide dog, giving information and guidelines on managing a guide dog in the business environment. It also tells our staff how to access the access officer, all about the Disability Act, and it gives them the link into all the forms and leaflets that we have available for people with disabilities. I'm running out of time, but I'll just finish up here. As I said, I'm one of the access officers for revenue. There are actually 3 access officers. There were 2 up to very recently, but we appointed a 3rd access officer who's based in our office in Monaghan. Probably the largest volume of queries that we get are from disabled drivers who want to reclaim the VRT and the VAT. So Ailish McEntee is the access officer, and she's actually based in that area. We have a dedicated mailbox for customers. If they have a query, they send the email directly either to myself or this particular mailbox. If people want to be dealt with by sign, we have that facility available in our O'Connell Street offices. And just to say, we get a wide range of requests relating possibly to, as I said, VRT and VAT refunds. Also people looking for tax clearance certificates where their houses are being adapted because of their disability. As I mentioned earlier, tax credit certificates in Braille and in audio. And one interesting particular request that we got, a question, was from a transport company. They have a bus service which have built-in ramps, but they wanted to buy portable ramps in the event that the built-in ramp broke down and they had, say, a wheelchair user on the bus and they had to get the wheelchair user off the bus. They were wondering, could they claim the VAT back on the portable ramps? Another one was about gift tax, where a member of the public wrote to me and a family member had a disability and some members in the family were giving her money to buy specific accommodation for her needs, and they wanted to know, would she be liable on the gift tax? So we get a wide range of queries, and I think it is very useful having the dedicated mailbox that people are dealt with straight away. I've run out of time, so I'll finish up on that note, and thank you all very much for listening. Thank you.